Yesterday was Remembrance Day for the Holocaust victims, the place where people from Jewish and alternative background, also Romas and Gypsies, were incarcerated and put to death in gas chambers or killed on the side roads because they had a different background or had a specific background as mostly Jewish, but also from other places. And so, what to think about all that, and how can some people go so far in their actions? And well, we got some answers in history from a prominent writer called Hannah Arendt, where she tried to talk about the banality of evil, saying basically that, well, it's when people blindly obey orders and see the evil in the others and act on it. So it's when you get a picture in your mind of a person, a group, a nationality, a religious cult as pure evil, people who are not to be trusted, to be isolated, stigmatized. And then at one point, it tips over and becomes an enemy that you have to get rid of, or it gets used by politicians as it happened in the period before Second World War, where that anti-Jewish and anti-foreign campaign grew very strong in Germany and became the result we saw later in the Holocaust. And why are Jewish people certainly mostly targeted? Well, I've learned a little bit about Jewish history as well from my Muslim background, and they have been through history from time to time, like under focus from the Romans. They had trouble with the Muslims, and they had trouble in the Middle Ages as well with the Catholics, as with the Ottoman Empire, and so on. They also had periods where they flourished and had a lot of impact and influence. Some would say it's because of the way they treat others and look at others as lower people than themselves, and that they use usually they use money to gain money, and they in a way suck people's blood. This is the picture of the Jewish, and what makes some dis- disgusted people like hate them and want to get rid of them. But is that the whole picture? Is that the truth? To some extent, well, there are historic evidence that this has been part of the human history. Stigmatizing other groups and persons in order to be able to kill them. You cannot you cannot go kill somebody unless you dehumanize them first. This is also a teaching lesson from history. You have to make that person look like some evil in a way. You use religious sources, or you can use secular ideas. You can use even science. How much has science not been used to some kind of put Africans under the white man as saying, well, they have two big skulls and two stupid minds, and they are not well developed yet. Huh? That idea has been revolutionary in science in a negative way, because it took us to a place where people could look down at African people. The same goes when you look at the Jews or the Arabs. Today, it's the Muslims who are the new Holocaust people mostly, because they are in many places. If you look in China, incarcerated in prisons in millions. In many places in the West, people do not like them, do not want to have them among them, and so on and so on. At the same time, there is a growing awareness of that idea in history that the Jews had big part to play in certain ideas and ways of history, and maybe that will also ignite a kind of turn back against them. I can see history unfolding in front of my eyes right now, because it will, in a way or another, repeat the same mechanisms as long as we keep producing the same ideas. We do not really go to that global minded idea, because who wants that? Everybody wants the domination for his or her culture, and and that's difficult in the long run to keep up with, and so it will turn against these groups once more. And the basic trouble for the Jewish communities today is that they are very exposed from Muslims who hate them, from Catholic or Christians who see them as the root of the troubles for Christ, from Eastern countries and places where they do not like their influence on politics and markets, ideas, and so on. So, well, they are too exposed, unfortunately. And I have Jewish friends, and I know how scared they can be personally, to feel that they are so exposed. And so the Holocaust is not really over and done with. It's a kind of remembrance of what happened to these people. And so where to go from here is also important. I know also some people, some voices speaking sometimes of, well, this has been exaggerated, and the Holocaust is being used to put people into a kind of guilt feeling, that they always should feel guilty. The European continent and the European people should always feel guilty towards the Jewish people for what they did, and so they have always to watch out what they say and do and criticize or not criticize. And there can be some truth in that as well, that some things can be misused by political powers to use it in a certain way. But that does not make the Holocaust something easy to deal with. It's a tragic moment in history as well, as we have seen with other nations killing people during the world wars. It become very disgusting, evilish, and very, very dark. It's a dehumanization of the others, as if they do not belong to the same background, as if they were not people like themselves and humans, given spirit by God and given to live on this earth. It's big trouble. The Holocaust is a symbol and symptom of that, how it can go totally wrong from time to time, finding scapegoats and turning the ideas against the people who maybe bring them forward. Another side of this Holocaust remembrance I would like to stop by just for a few moments is that it is part of our human culture and legacy that we forget. We forget a lot. And when we forget, or times change and people get into new kind of troubles like we are in now, unemployment, and the rich is getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and a lot of troubles arising again. Well, humans tend to forget history and what they've done and maybe repeat it again with the same group or another group. And today, well, nobody can say that the Jewish are persecuted. They are very strong in the world, I feel. And I think many people realize that. They have a lot to say, they have great lobbies, a lot of money, and a lot of influence on many things that's going on. And they've got their own state, and they have a flourishing society and culture. So that's God's gift to them and to the world, hopefully. But we tend to forget, and also we tend to go back to the old ways when people feel under pressure. It's like the hatred the Jewish can feel from the Muslims today is partly because, well, what to do with the situation about the Palestinians? Who is to blame about that? And so it solemnly looked in the direction of the Jewish, and so they will get the blame for that. And the same goes with the European continent, where it suddenly will wake up from its slumber and say, hey, what's going on here? Why do we feel so mistreated, or why are our conditions so different? And somebody will point and say, well, these bloodsuckers has taken all your money and controlled your financial institutions and taken the power from you. Some voices could rise and say these things. And then we have the situation again where they will be persecuted or followed to gas chambers or whatever will be at that time. And this is the tragic of human history, the repetition of these evil deeds. And people really realize later, why did we do that? What's wrong? what went wrong. And at the same time, it has been the opportunity for others to show their humanity. How many people has not helped these minorities, Jews and alternative people and the Romas, to escape and to hide and to get away from the persecution that happened at that time. And later they were rewarded by history and by also the Jewish people themselves, remembering these kind and gentle souls, people who have been humanistic and helped, because they do not like to see humans suffer like that. And nobody deserved it. And so I don't know what's going on, but this is not only happening to the Jews. There are also people from other cultures and religions who are suppressed in such manner in ideas and in way of life that they also feel in a kind of holocaust or close by. The same with the Palestinians. They need a new, fresh place and start. I've always had this, or many years, had this opinion they should accept the situation and leave. Let the Jewish Israel take over the place and go and find the shelter in a new place, start a new civilization in Jordan, maybe the Jordanic area, and stop fighting the king there and stop making revolution all over the place with a lot of drugs and misuse and abuse and only shooting and fighting. Go build some civilization and rest. Get the surplus of life and accept that, well, you're a monotheistic religion and the Jewish are monistic religion, and God has given them this land back now. Leave it be. I heard one Palestinian say very cleverly once, he was interviewed in a documentary by a British author. And he said to him, well, you are selling a lot of symbols here. Some of them are Arabic, some are Jewish, some are Christian. What can you, I can see you're praying on your praying mat. And so you're a Muslim. Say, yeah, I am a Palestinian Muslim. But so he said, why do you accept the situation? Is it okay? He said, well, God has promised the Jewish that they will get their height and promised land back. And they will be on top of things again. And so who am I to change God's will? This is God's will. I have to accept it. It doesn't mean that you have to accept persecution and people being followed out of their villages and homes. This is totally wrong. And I know many Jewish people also recognize that and do not like that some of their own people have been doing that to their foes or enemies or another groups. So the danger in what's going on here with the Holocaust remembrance is that we forget. And another danger is that the persecuted becomes the persecutor. They will go maybe and challenge others for what they have done to them by doing the same. And that's wrong. And maybe they've already done it at some part, some of the Jewish groups, because they felt so much under pressure once more. And they could see them, it could not get along with the Palestinians. So some kind of suppression happened there, and maybe still is happening. And then the same goes for the Palestinians or maybe other groups in the world. The suppressed can become the suppressor and forget what happened to them and start doing it to others. This is a tragic situation in human history and life. I remember the book of Viktor Frankl, where he was in prison for some years during that World War II, and he saw people in big despair, and a lot of Jews like reaching out as well, not understanding why they are going through all this. And so can be said today about other kind of prisoners from any kind of background, where people do not understand what's happening and why they are taken in just because they belong to this ethnic group or this religious background or whatever. And so how to find hope in all that? And he found that people have always had the choice inside them to stay true to the message of love and to keep their hearts open to the kindness of God despite all this despair. And this is not easy neither to say or talk about, because how is it to know that you're getting starved and then you're gonna get killed, shaved in your head and getting killed in that chamber or something like that? It's a harsh situation to go through, and we have to feel it deeply in ourselves, because we tend to repeat these things and we tend to forget, or maybe we could be the next victims, who knows. So this is the trouble that we're going back to again, that these remembrances are sometimes just shallow remembrances. They are not really going into the depth of what we need to learn. And also the people who have been suppressed has to learn and understand but also the world need to learn and understand. And so with abuse comes reactions. We have to learn this lesson. So whatever you are, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, whatever you are, with abuse reactions comes. And when reactions comes, well, it gets destructive and tragic results happen. So yeah, I share the remembrance of the Holocaust, and I like that we speak about it also in schools and show how it happened, why, what's the mentality behind the people who did it. How could you just stand there and look at these people as if they were not humans, no flesh or blood, as if they were just something you throw out or throw into the fire? How can you agree to that? That's the very basic banality of evil, that you just adhere and you just get this picture of somebody else and you just allow yourself that you can do whatever is needed to suppress the other part because you see them as evil, and evil should not have roots. And you forget that what you are doing is actually the evil. And this is the crazy thing about all this. How much we can hope for a better world, both for the Jews and other people. And I know they have a big responsibility today with the power they have, that and the lessons they have learned, and also the knowledge that they have in their catalogs and archives and wisdom. There are many people from Jewish backgrounds who have a big wisdom and understanding of life, that they need to take global responsibility to make the world a beautiful place and not tear it down because they have been persecuted. Sometimes it happens a lot. When you get persecuted too long, you become so bitter on the people who persecuted, or maybe the whole world, because they always disgust you and they don't like you and they want to get rid of you. Then you want to tear the whole thing down. And when you get to power, that could be maybe the first idea, the first vision, to say, let's destroy these nations who have been persecuting us for so long, and let the one God reign in his righteousness over all this injustice, evil. But a better thing to do is to go with love and power and use it to spread your greatness. Go and spread that greatness that you have. So I know nobody is listening to me, but I will throw my voice out anyway, hoping somebody, maybe telepathically, from the Jewish elite or community or people will understand this, either with words or just inspiration. Sometimes I believe we can share inspiration without knowing it. Like sometimes I get an idea and somehow it reaches to the people, to the right place, without me even saying it or talking about it or listening to my specific voice. So there is some kind of also secret communication channels we haven't discovered yet, where we can share ideas without knowing it, and the other person get that inspiration. And I hope the Jewish people will get the inspiration to make the world a better place and go away from bitterness and resentment of the humans, to look at them as brothers and sisters in humanity, all under God's eyes and light, and make life a paradise for everyone around them. And so in that way, share what they have with everyone. And by sharing and caring, whilst keeping the power, they will gain a lot more than what else would have been doing. And I know a lot are doing this already, but there are also some signals and signs that, well, they are falling into that bitterness and resentment. They just want to crush the enemy, and they want to destroy everybody around them and keep them fighting, so they never get to rest, because otherwise they will fall over them in hatred. And that's also a problem in the other cultures, especially the Arabic ones and Muslim ones. They have too much hatred for the Jewish and the Israeli people, Zionist and so on, that, well, if I was a Zionist or a Jewish I would be scared as well, saying, what the heck, the moment I lose my power and my sword of iron, they will be all over me. Let me keep them down for any price possible. And that's the problem. The other nations are not relaxing either and saying, okay, you are the chosen people of God from originally, and we love having you around and between us. And well, this has happened in history. I can say from Muslim history and also European Christian history, also in the many places in Southern Europe. There has been these communities of accepting the Jews, looking at them as brethren, and taking them in as friends, and also giving them some space to be themselves. This has happened, but some kind of evil just arises again, either between the Jews themselves, and so they turn against other people and try to misuse or abuse their powers, or at the same time, something happens on a higher level in the mind of the other people, disliking them again. And so they want to isolate them or persecute them or throw them out because of this kind of ideas that happened, for instance, in southern Spain, where Muslims and Jews were almost forced to convert. But if you look at it from Isabella's side, well, they have been fighting this war for so long to get the Holy Land back and to get the Christian areas back. And so they had to be very, very harsh and cynical and say to them, either you're with us or against us. And this is what happened in the end, not in the beginning. And well, later that happened for the Jewish in the Middle East, where they have been part of the Middle East for all that time that the Muslim has been reigning. They have not been killed in big groups or deported. Well, there have been incidents, but okay, big, huge empire for 1,000 years has been able to keep a good contact and protection of the Jewish communities and help them thrive and use their powers and knowledge. This is a good thing as well. So there are also bright sides of that. But I'm afraid we're going to go back to some of these issues, maybe not with the Jews again, but it could be other communities or people. Because the banality of evil is the same. It's like you just stigmatize the other, look at him or her as the evil, who has no good or mostly evil and bad. They deserve what's coming to them. And then you go and do it, or you listen to the leader who asks you to do it. And that what you feel is your duty, and that's all right to do. So you put aside the basic ethics and values that you carry with you as a human, caring for another human, saying, what I do to another human can be done to me, then that's why I don't do it. And what I do to life is hurting others, and that can hurt me, and I don't want to do it. But they go and put all that aside for some reasons of rationality. But it's only possible, the key to it all is to go and dehumanize the other and say that they are not really humans, they are not developed, they are evil, they are misusing people, sucking their blood. We have to get rid of them. And so that's why you see a lot of these people, they will call their enemies as rodents and small cockroaches and whatever they can find of ways to describe them, so they can dehumanize them. So the language becomes also very important in that dehumanization process, where you use words and negative aspects to attach to these kind of people and ideas, and that's what makes them all the time less valuable. And they will react at one point or another. And I understand the Jewish people, well, what, by God, well, it's not easy to be that person who is not liked by anyone. And you have to find your way through anyhow. And so at one point, you can really have this resentment to everything around you and anyone who had been persecuting you. You would just want to see them in pain and tortured and punished. And so this is part of it. At the same time, I believe also the ideas of both racism, religious fanaticism has been used as tools to bring in new situations, with the tragic consequence, of course, of stepping over like these minorities as the Jews are. I don't think anybody would like my talk here because it's not really on the plain side of neither just putting myself on the weeping side of the Holocaust, which I am. I am on the weeping side because I don't like it happened. I hate it. I resent this kind of actions. And on the other side, I'm not either, like, what can you say, just seeing it as justified So I think none of the people out there really who divide in their groups and cantons in the way they think would understand my approach and perspective. So this is the tragic part of life, being such a minority inside the minority of a minority. You feel so alone and looking at things from a perspective people do not really see anymore or understand. Because I see it this way, that they all have responsibility, the persecuted and the persecutor, the people who followed the Holocaust, the people who experienced it. There are, and especially the children and people that comes after. It's not easy, and there has been many studies also on how has children of Holocaust parents been dealing with this trauma. So let's take it over to other nations. How would they be dealing with their trauma and their kids, and how will they lash out when they get the power back? And they will get the power. The people who are in power today must understand they will not keep it, and they cannot keep it. It's justice that makes power last long. That's why we have periods in history. The kings who have been just has been reigning mostly for a long time, because people can feel the justice, and God helps. He sends a kind of grace when justice is over the land, and it all prospers. And when injustice hits, greed, misuse, abuse, well, things go bad because the grace is taken away, and also people will act blindly, and then we end in these wars and tragic events. So we have to understand power doesn't last, and people who are suppressed, they can take the power at one time by God's grace and wish, and so they can lash back and they can misuse it, and that's wrong too, because I think what God really wishes from us in His Old Testament is that we stay just, to be just. It means also to deal the punishment out to people who have been punishing others. That's also justice. But do not overstep it. Do not abuse your powers that you have gotten again. I wish the better days for everyone and for the Jewish people. And I have tender feelings for what happened. And I hope things will go better. Also for the Arabic and Muslim and Christian people who are suffering out there. Also for people from other nations who are suffering the same or close to the same issues. Humans should not suffer under these kind of mistreatments. We should really see ourselves as a global village, all bound together by some big ideas, but we are not allowed to. There are always some powers disrupting these ideas and these plans for us to get along. It's very ugly, and there is a God watching in the end. Things will be put right at one day or another, and everything will come to light.